Have you ever stopped and wondered how we actually develop our sense of right and wrong? You know, that little voice in our head? It's a journey we all take, starting from when we're tiny. And today, we're going to dig into one of the biggest ideas about how it all works, and that's the theory from the one and only Jean Piaget. So let's start with a question you've probably asked if you've ever been around a little kid. Why are they so black and white about rules? I mean, to them, a rule is a rule. It's set in stone, there's no arguing, and breaking one is just the end of the world. Why is that? What's going on in their heads? Well, it turns out this black and white thinking isn't just kids being kids. It's actually a super important step in our moral development. And this exact thing is what fascinated the brilliant psychologist Jean Piaget. He wanted to figure out how we go from this super rigid mindset to something way more complex and, well, human. To figure this out, Piaget did something really clever. He didn't lock kids in a lab or give them a bunch of tests. Nope. He just went to the playground and watched them play marbles. Seriously. By just observing them and asking about the rules of the game, he uncovered these incredible insights into how our ideas about fairness and justice actually grow up with us. And what he noticed was pretty wild. The really little kids, like under 6, they were basically just doing their own thing. It looked like they were playing together, but they all had their own set of rules. Then, around age 6, they started to get that, okay, there are shared rules here, but they weren't so great at actually following them. And this observation was the key that led him to map out 2 major stages of our moral growth. Okay, so let's dive into that first stage. Piaget called it heteronomous morality. This is the one you'll typically see in kids from about 5 to 10 years old. That word, heteronomous, sounds complicated, but it just means your rules come from someone else. At this age, kids see rules as these absolute, unchangeable laws that were handed down from some higher power, like a parent, a teacher, or just the universe. They believe these rules have always been there, and you can never, ever change them. And get this, a huge part of this stage is the belief in what you could call imminent justice. The idea that if you do something wrong, you will get punished automatically. It's like cosmic karma for kids. And what's really crucial here is that they judge how bad something is based purely on the outcome. So, a kid who accidentally breaks 10 cups is way naughtier than a kid who breaks just 1 cup on purpose. The intention totally doesn't matter yet. It's all about the amount of damage. But obviously, we don't stay in that headspace forever. As kids get older, their brains do some serious upgrading, and they move into the second stage, autonomous morality. This big shift usually starts happening around age 10 or so, right when a kid's social world explodes. They're spending way more time with their friends, they're negotiating, they're arguing, they're figuring things out for themselves. And through all that, they start to have this big realization. Rules aren't magic. They're just things people made up to help everyone get along.
And right here, the whole script flips. In this autonomous stage, kids get that rules are basically social contracts. If everyone playing the game agrees to change a rule, well, then you can change the rule. And maybe most importantly, the intention behind what you do suddenly becomes the most important thing. That kid who broke 1 cup on purpose, now he's the one who did the worst thing, because his motive was bad. See the switch? When you look at it side by side like this, you can really see the massive change. We go from a morality based on constraint and following adult orders to one based on cooperation with our peers. We move from seeing rules as permanent fixtures of the universe to seeing them as flexible agreements. And we go from judging actions by their consequences to judging them by their intentions. It's a huge leap from simple obedience to genuine understanding. So, the big question is, what's pushing this incredible transformation? I mean, how do we make that leap? It's not just a birthday, right? Piaget said it's really about 2 key things working together. Think of it like a 1-2 punch. First, there's just straight-up cognitive growth. Your brain is literally getting better at seeing the world from someone else's perspective. And second, there's all that messy, wonderful, complicated interaction with your friends. Arguing about who's out, making up new rules for a game. All of that teaches you, on a gut level, that rules are tools that we create and we can change. Now, like any theory this big, it's not perfect. Some scientists now think Piaget might have underestimated kids a little, that they can start thinking about intentions earlier than he thought. But you can't overstate how important his work was. It was absolutely foundational. It laid the groundwork for other huge thinkers, like Lawrence Kohlberg. And that core idea that we move from a focus on outcomes to a focus on intentions, that has really held up over time. So what's the big takeaway for all of us? This isn't just some dusty old theory. It has huge, real-world implications. Knowing where a child is on this journey,
Whether they're in that rigid, rules are rules stage, or the more flexible, let's talk about it stage, that completely changes how we can effectively talk to them, how we parent, and how we teach.
So I'll just leave you with this to chew on. Thinking about Piaget's stages, how would you explain why a rule is fair to a 6-year-old? And how would that be different for a 12-year-old, right? For the 6-year-old, you'd probably focus on the authority, because I said so, and the clear consequences. But for the 12-year-old, you could have a real conversation about why the rule helps everyone, and maybe even ask for their input. It's a totally different ballgame, and it just shows you the incredible journey our moral minds are on.